This is utilities meeting and we're starting at 6 p.m. I'm going to ask Mr. Betts to come first because I hear you want to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm happy to go.
The wastewater treatment plant. So what's the outcome of that right now at this point in time?
Well, it's been up in operation since September. I'd really defer to Sean for operational update and that kind of stuff. He's been running it for 9 months now.
We started August 29th last year.
So we're almost going on a year. The majority of the work is finished. There's a handful of punch list items, just odds and ends, little things that just take time for these parts to get, or working out bugs in the electronics of various equipment, getting the right little switch that talks together. Switch, just very minor stuff like that. We've retained, don't hold me to it, over $100,000 yet on the contractor, so they've not been paid in full. The old treatment plant site has been finished, graded, seeded. I've not seen how well the seed held up, but I know they put a lot down, and we'll double check that before we pay them all out. Otherwise, it's operational stuff, I think, and Sean could report on that.
There's something that we need to bring up real quick, and I don't know whether this is the place to do it or not, but something that's been discussed in another meeting of the night. There's a resident of the community whose property was promised to be included in part of the grant funding by the city manager, and they are wondering what that status is. I think Devin's probably got the more information for you on that, but they were promised to be bought out. And I didn't know if there was any more funds that was available in that phase of the water treatment plant.
So again, roughly $900,000 in contingency remain.
Okay.
USDA is the agency that has that funds and will control disbursement of it and approve any disbursements of it. Right now, their plan is to put that money into the city's short-lived asset account. Essentially, with USDA funding, they make you put, I believe it's 15% reserve, so that over the next 20, 30, 40 years, if you have breakdowns of equipment, pump replacement, you have a source to draw the funds from. Yeah, so that's the intent for that money. The question's never been posed to the agency as to whether they would participate in that purchase or not.
Okay.
I'd be happy to pose that question. I've never been directed to.
If you would, I would speak with, Chief Tolliver,
Sure.
/ city manager / communique for the city. If you could speak to him about that, and
Sure.
he'll get you the information. I think it's been lingering out there for quite some time now.
We've kind of looked into it a little bit. It looks like that resident is not in the city of Nelsonville, so it's
Right.
like compounding factors.
Well, the problem is none of that was in the city of Nelsonville when we purchased it.
So
And we annexed it. None of that was.
I believe the individual property you're talking about was left out of the annexation.
Right.
So it's multiple
There's multiple red flags, but I think that
problems going on.
it's just like what we did when we bought all that stuff. That stuff was all annexed, and remember, it wasn't annexed for several years, and we paid property taxes on it. So, but anyway. Go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry, didn't mean to hijack you. I just oversee phone calls on, so.
We tabled a resolution 2296, and it deals with all of the underground coal mines that we have here in Nelsonville. So there is money out there to take care of certain things for the towns that have the coal mines underneath. I know of one particular one up around the cross. They found 3 of them in there. The deepest one was like 90 feet down. What they had to do was take the house and redo it, so it was steady. And they filled out the lines that they found. But, and this was at no cost to the individual because there was some kind of a grant or something that they were using to get that done. So I myself would like to have Devin take a look at it. And it needs to be sent in here by September the 15th.
Okay.
And it's a lot of money, so, a little bit,
I think that's a no-brainer. Sounds like a
So,
great idea.
yeah. But our president will be sure and give you the copy, because I have this copy. So that's something that we need to do, and we'll have Jonathan put out an ordinance. But you look at it first and see what you think.
Yeah. Do you know what agency it's being,
Let me see here.
what a specific?
Abandoned Mine Land Economic Revitalization.
Okay.
AMLER is the program grant funding.
Okay.
So, that is not, you had some kind of legislation that you wanted to do, done? The LPA ODOT?
That is the legislation that needs done to go along with the Canal Street
Yes.
project, I believe. Familiar with it at all?
I'd have to look into it, not right off. I thought Canal Street was covered, but that is a local public, authority, so that does ring a bell with ODOT, yes.
So we're at what point? Is there a time frame on that?
She says September 15th.
No, that's for the mines.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think it was the end of August, actually, if I recall.
Yeah, it had a deadline for August 31st or something like that, I believe.
Okay, now which are we talking about now? I asked you about the ODOT.
Right.
Is
the
that
canal.
what you're talking about?
I have catching up on a lot of stuff.
Okay.
The Canal Street project, I believe the deadline is the end of August. So we need to address it at the next council meeting under suspension.
And we have a big one here in regards to Bessemer Road. Would anyone care to talk about that? Or do you know anything about it?
I know what's going on. I don't know a good solution.
Okay,
What's going on? If you could talk about it.
So the city has promised half of a paving project for Bessemer Road.
that's
Which is-
$55,000.
The total was 114,000, our house. was
57.
55,
5540.
yeah.
I don't know how to do it. However, so we've agreed to pay around $55,000 to help pave Bessemer Road, which is from Carbon Hill Bookville Road, I believe the top of 12th Street, which is where it turns into Marietta Avenue near the old gym up there.
Stop sign.
Yeah, by the stop sign, before you get into the Village of Bookville limits.
So you are saying we should do this?
We've never signed an agreement. It was all a verbal agreement made between the city manager and one or more of the township trustees
At a trustee meeting.
at a trustee meeting. Like I said, we never signed anything to make us contractually obligated to do it. I feel like it'd be bad to go back on our word and not. However, it's $55,000 of the city of Nelsonville's money being spent on a township project.
But isn't that road, it traveled by school buses going to the high school?
It is.
Yeah.
But that road's also not even in Oakville city limits, so we don't even control. That road's in the county. If you live on
Well, but
that-
the police goes
We
around.
drive on it to get.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not,
So there's, it's not,
it's a county road.
yeah,
It's not in the city of Brookville, it's not in Nelson.
Now, isn't Nelsonville, York considered in the city of Nelsonville?
The school is, the way it's annexed in, it cuts around.
Across the street.
So it cuts off that road,
Yeah, that road's not, the Elm Street is the alley that runs just below it.
right?
It's not the city either.
Just the school grounds and then on up?
The school grounds and the houses on 78.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So basically, we have two different issues. The city manager has said that we would take care of. The council did not know anything about it until recently. So we're talking in the thousands of dollars that Nelsonville is going to be liable for. Is that correct?
Tens of thousands.
potentially, if you guys decide you want to go through with the project, I don't know that there's anything forcing us to do so, other than completely damaging your reputation with the township trustees.
Yeah.
Which is an important factor.
No legislation, there was no legislation brought forth.
No.
There's no contract, I can't even get into it.
Regardless of what led up to
It makes us
it,
look
you guys
bad.
have to decide somewhere to do it. We don't have money appropriated currently in the paving budget to cover that. So-
55,000 would pay Chestnut Street. Close.
Maybe half of it.
to do what?
So should we send this to finance to talk about it?
Maybe we should renegotiate with them.
They've sent out the individual company that's going to do the paving, they have sent
They've sent a quote.
their invoice to us.
It's not, it's just a quote.
It's just a
All we
quote.
have is a quote.
It's what, please?
We just have a quote, not an invoice.
A quote.
I thought mine said invoice. Okay, I stand corrected.
So maybe we could just tell them, we knew nothing about this, but we could do X amount rather than this amount, maybe negotiate it down a little
I
bit.
would
So
say
we don't,
it's reaching out and speaking with the
yeah,
township trustees.
maybe we don't look like a
Starting with them.
complete bunch of heathens,
No offense.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Well, if you're gonna reduce it, do you have to kind of talk about what you're gonna reduce it to, or is that just something that,
I think finance would have to.
Finance, okay. I was just thinking it shouldn't be left to one person? But right on.
Okay. Sir, I'm sorry, but I don't have your first name. Sean,
I'm Sean.
you're Sean.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to say tonight, sir?
I mean, I'm not afraid to talk.
I had him come in because it was talked about I'm pretty sure it was on there about the EPA violations. Did you put that on
It's not, it's wastewater treatment plant performance review.
And violations, hey, we can go underneath
It
that.
does, yeah, so it can be discussed.
So
Yeah, I've been here almost 3 years, and typically a wastewater plant and a water plant have an EPA inspection every 3 years. I had one 2 months after I started the old plant. It was Phil's next to last day. That was just coincidence. So, that plant was falling apart. So the violations that followed that were not just paperwork violations. They were like, fix this, fix that.
Right.
Because we're not treating wastewater. So I had another EPA inspection between Christmas and New Year's last year. So they kind of shoved that one down our throat a little bit. I mean, normally you wouldn't have another one that soon. But the EPA's reason, or one of their reasons, was it's a big deal when you go from a class 2 to a class 3 plant. They consider class 3 and above large plant status. And there's a whole lot of things change. You know, the inspection, there's a lot more laboratory questions. Just everything is at another level. And this stuff that I'm learning, because I've never been a manager for a class 3 wastewater plant, so. And then, we had 6 or 7 violations that came out of the most recent inspection. And because we were in a new plant, those were mostly paperwork violations. You know, the plant was brand new, it was running fine. So it's just a lot of crossing Ts and dotting Is and upgrading your laboratory procedures and documentation manuals and things like that. It's all paperwork. So one reason that the EPA had a second inspection so quick was my inspector knows that I haven't really had a license backup since I've been here. And he thought that having an inspection and sending out the NOVs would help put it on everyone's radar, you know, city manager, council. So I need to have a license backup. And so before I went on my recent vacation, we've been working towards that. I mean, I've been making phone calls for months trying to find people who have the licenses required and seeing who is willing to come fill in our hours as needed. This long vacation that I just took, I mean, it's stressful to try and prepare to go away from work that long. And then
But didn't you find someone?
We did. So Rich Kassler, he runs the planes. He's worked down there for, I'll say 38 years at least. So Rich lives out towards Amesville, and so that's relatively close considering Southeast Ohio. Rich was willing to cover all of my hours while I was gone. So he worked full time down there and he would come here and put in 40 hours a week.
And what was his pay for that?
He is asking $50 an hour, which I talked to 2 other people who were kind of willing to also be candidates. And this is something that I learned, like when you hire someone like that, $50 to $60 per hour is kind of the going rate for a class 2 or a class 3 license.
How many weeks did Rich work for you?
He was here 4+ weeks. And it's, you know, we're just getting all of that set up. I mean, I'd say we have definitely made progress. The EPA definitely would not have been happy if we didn't cover those hours or most of those hours or half of those hours. So I feel like we've definitely made progress. You know, the next holiday that we have is an instance where I would like to take the day off. And that's where I'll give Rich a call and say, Rich, I need you to cover 8 hours. So, you know, it's been slow, and hopefully, I think on the 12th, Taylor is going to try to, you know, I guess kind of find out the hard way that, I mean, we need to make him a part-time city employee. That's how he prefers to be paid. And I mean, we're kind of at his mercy. I mean, he has a license we need because
You're talking about Mr. Kassler?
Yeah. We don't have anyone else in-house who has the licenses.
You have the license though, right?
It takes 9 years.
Oh, to get a class 3 license, I don't know, it would take several years to get a class 3 license. And to back up a class 3 plant, I'm pretty sure you can have a class 2 license, which would be a little bit easier to obtain, but we need a class 2 or a class 3 licensed person is about.
Have you ever thought about putting it out like on a headhunters or something similar to that, where you can put it out into a network of
Well, that's kind of what I did through the EPA. They maintain a list of operators who are willing to do contract work. A lot of little facilities, you know, there's trailer parks, gas stations, ODOT rest areas. There's a lot more treatment facilities out there than any of us realize. And the EPA maintains a list of people who are willing to take extra work on the side. So that's what I did. I started with their list and I probably went through at least 10 phone calls to get these 3 people. And I mean, Rich is not afraid to put in the hours. I mean, working 2 jobs, 40 hours a week for a month, most people wouldn't be interested in that, but he was.
Did he sign a contract?
Nothing has been signed, no.
Has
Not
he
that I'm
been
aware of.
paid? Has he been paid?
He hasn't been paid yet.
Has he filled out paperwork?
He keeps asking me.
Well, he has, doesn't every new employee have to fill out employee paperwork?
Yeah, so
I'm sure he will when we get that far.
he was initially under the impression he was gonna be 1099. I think is that kind of what,
Rich never wanted to be like into the social security system. He's worked OPERS his whole life.
Right.
And so he always wanted to be paid through OPERS, which
Right.
would require him to be a city employee, not just a contractor that we hire by the hour.
Right.
So that makes it a little more complicated, but like I said, we're kind of at his mercy because he's got the license we need and he was willing to put in the hours. And, you know, I've been working on this for months and things just move slowly. I mean, I'm glad that he covered the hours, you know, that buys us a lot of credibility with the EPA and, I'm sure we'll get him paid. as
Who
soon as we
covers
can.
the hours, when you're not there? I mean, you said you put 8 hours in, right?
I work 5 8-hour days, I mean, roughly.
Right, so, there's, the plant doesn't shut down after you
There's
leave.
16 other hours a day.
Yeah,
The EPA requires that a licensed person is there 5 days per week and 40 hours per week. That's the EPA requirement.
That's the
to run the
requirement.
plant.
Okay.
You've got to have ORC there, operator responsible charge. That's the EPA's terminology.
you mean after you leave?
No,
No, just for 8 hours. He has to be there. 8
but you know,
hours,
if
5
I want
hours
to
a
take
day.
any time off, like doctor's appointment, holiday, you name it.
Somebody has to be
Technically,
there
if
for
I'm
you.
here, if I'm here at City Hall, my time doesn't count because I gotta be at the treatment facility.
Yeah.
So it just gets inconvenient.
So when you're gone, the other 16 hours, is covered by somebody else, correct?
No, we're staffed from 6 AM to 4 PM. There's no EPA requirement that you have to have an afternoon or a midnight guy.
Oh, okay.
No, there's no requirement like that. It's just that a licensed person, a class 3, has to be there 5 days a week, every week. I don't care if it's Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The EPA is working on that. They got serious about enforcing these rules 6 years ago, in the fall of 2018. I think the rules have been on the books longer than that, but it was really something they started to crack down on. Made it inconvenient for a lot of small facilities, especially who struggle with staffing. They don't have extra people. They don't have extra licensed people. So the EPA, hopefully by the end of this year, they will come out with some modifications to the rules where if you have a week with a federal holiday, they will possibly lower that to 4 days a week and 32 hours. So the EPA is going to give a little bit here soon. we hope.
Okay, Sean, did you hire Rich or did the city manager hire him?
The city manager did meet him once. And I've talked with Taylor about this for 2 or 3 months ago. I mean, I've been trying to keep everyone informed as far as the city manager.
But the thing of it is, the council was not informed.
As long ago as I brought it up, I would have assumed it would
Yeah, 'cause-
have made it this far.
Because I believe, I'd have to check with the attorney, but the staffing ordinance needs to be
Yeah.
amended to allow for.
I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done to make it official.
Right.
I'll
To
put it
get
that way.
paid.
To get him paid, he has to fill out his employee paperwork and.
But you said he wants a 1099.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Oh, he wants to be in the OPERS program, not a 1099.
Oh,
It would-
1099 puts you in such.
right, oh, I understand.
It would be simpler if he was 1099. We could
Right.
just hire him like any contractor.
Like a yard, like
Right.
some yards.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more complicated because that's what he wants.
It's followed OPERS.
Has he been filling out the paperwork?
Yes, got it.
No, I mean, just to get him, the EPA is happy if a licensed person is there at the facility. That's the EPA's main concern. I didn't have time. He doesn't have an account in our VIP to pay bills. He wasn't completely registered with the EPA to turn in our reports. His main objective while I was gone was to just literally fill in the hours.
What class is he?
He's a class 3,
He's a
water.
class 3.
water and
That's-
wastewater.
That's what you need.
Yep.
Okay, but why hasn't he filled out the papers yet? When he knows that's what he has to do to get paid.
Like I said, I've been bringing these things up with the city manager and Taylor for 2 or 3 months. And I thought that Taylor I thought that someone had put it on the agenda to get it through this side and make it formal.
No, it's all been done.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
It was not part of our staffing ordinance that we just passed either, if I remember correctly.
So what needs to happen is it needs to have the staffing ordinance rewritten, allowing for a part-time operator of record for the wastewater treatment plant, or fill in an emergency, to fill in vacations and emergency situations for Sean. And then he has to get that paperwork filled out with Taylor's office. Once on the next meeting, we need to call that, do it, and then I believe they can pay him, because the first thing.
About $8,000 probably.
Right.
8 or 10 grand.
Yeah, and that's a problem. And the problem is should've, could've, would've, might've. Doesn't
Yeah.
work.
This is the first council meeting I've ever been to, and Jason asked me to come, which is fine.
I'm glad to get informed.
I've tried to, I have watched some meetings on YouTube, but I've never been to one. And, like I said, I absolutely wasn't trying to drop the bomb on anyone. I've tried to keep a few people in the loop for months. And
Hey, that's all right, Sean. We needed to hear this. We needed to know the exact facts, and we have them now. So we will take council as a whole. I'll speak for myself, but as a whole, I believe they will take corrective action to make sure that this gets taken care of.
then a little bit of good news here, hopefully, is, Zach has been studying to try and get a class 1 license. And, he's been trying for 2.5 years. He just took the test right before I left, and he almost passed. So when he can get a class 1 with our full-time employee, that will help the city a lot, because having a class 1 licensed person there 40 hours a week, the EPA will give us hopefully a 20-hour per week reduction. So that'll cut us down to 5 days a week and 20 hours. And that's what we were at the old plant. So life was a lot simpler for me at the old plant.
Right.
We've been so busy at the new plant, I really didn't have any time to go anywhere until this recent vacation. But 5 and 20 is a lot easier to achieve than 5 and 40. I shouldn't have to go into the details on that.
Once he passes his test, he's still an operator in training for 1 year, right? Yeah, you have to do 2,000 some hours.
He's been here almost 3 years, so no, he will have the time. As soon as he passes the test,
I thought it was once you pass the test, then you have to put the time in.
I don't believe so.
Like apprentice work?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Cohn, are you looking into this too?
Yeah, I have been left out of all this. I know nothing about it.
I think honestly, I think it would be, I'm just speaking once again for myself, no one else. I think it would be great if you could get no deadline, work towards getting a certification also.
I can get some, I work on one, but at one point,
I know,
that takes me away from anything that I
I
do.
know, but it'd be nice for you to have one. Work on one and just have it.
My job changes.
I know, but that makes you more valuable to the
They
city.
change.
Well, yeah,
So
more responsibility goes more pay.
It goes down, that down there doesn't pay what I make.
Right. I'm just saying, come on, don't argue with me.
Is there any formal training that this individual can go to so we can help assist?
Oh,
him?
yeah. We started off 2.5 years ago. OTCO is Operator Training Committee of Ohio. That's their sole mission, is to train people to pass the EPA exam. So he started off with a 3-month OTCO course, and that's like taking a nighttime college class. And after he needed more help, last summer, we found a different, like American Water College, we found a different course online that we signed him up for. Has a lot of review questions, a lot of practice exams. And more recently, in June, Zach drove to Cleveland for an ORWA review session which was just a 4-hour session, but those have always been well-known for being valuable with the information they provide. They give you a lot of handouts, which can also help answer questions. So, I mean, we've done at least 3 things to provide training. You know, we're not just throwing someone out on their head.
Do we pay for this training?
Absolutely.
What about Paul? Paul is a class 1 holder that's already studied for his 2 and just never went and took it.
There you go.
So Paul's already a class 1, and the only thing he does all day long right now is gets the guys from Star and goes with him.
Is get some what?
The
Gets the
guys
guys
from
from
Star. The weed eat,
Prisoners.
and you do everything, you gotta have somebody with them all the
Have to be
Oh.
supervised.
time.
Oh, that's a great idea, Jason.
I mean, he already has a class 1.
I'm not keen on that at all.
Why?
Might want to go into executive
There's
session.
probably
for
a
that.
reason he's with the weed eaters.
Well, that's a personnel discussion.
I'm
That's a,
not,
that's a discussion that can be had.
I'm not, honestly, I'm not keen on it at all. And,
Does anybody else have anything to say tonight?
Yes, I have a question. Sean, do you know how much the electric bill monthly is running out at the new plant?
I don't see them. I've never,
That'd be a question. for-
Judy pays them. I think they're roughly 10 grand a month.
Is that,
And I don't even know how that relates to the old plant.
I think
I'm
she
sure the
said-
new
I think
plant
she
has a
said
lot
it's
bigger
higher.
electric bill.
I think she said it's higher down there than it was at the old.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure it would be more.
Yeah, I mean, we've got more. The old plant was so non-functioning, we weren't using a lot of electric because stuff wasn't working.
so if we had an alternative such as solar panels, would that help possibly
We've
offset?
discussed, the city manager discussed that. I mean, there is, possibly this property that you guys were talking about, the trees would have to be cleared. There, ODOT owns a nice flat piece right behind us between the 4 lane. And that, to me, that's closer and it's
Yeah, it's right
it's
there.
ready to go. We would just have to make a trade with ODOT. I don't know why they would really care about that few acres there. We've discussed it.
Okay, great. As long as you're discussing it, I'm
That
happy.
would take a little bit of time to recoup your money for that, but I mean, in the long term, it would be probably beneficial, but.
Yeah, if our bill's 10 grand a month, 120,000 a year.
Yeah, but versus what you might have to pay to put those
Again, that
Well,
was all-
recouping that, and then,
Yeah.
but I say 10, 20 years down the road, it could probably save the city money.
I'm guessing, but I bet you Athens wastewater plant runs 40,000 a month, or it used to. Now, they did recently put in a solar array down there,
Mhm.
but wastewater is very electric intensive because of aeration and pumping. Our bill is higher than what we're used to, but it's not near as big as our neighbors downstream.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
If I may, I think it's on the agenda, but please stop me if I'm allowed to discuss it. There's an upcoming grant opportunity for sewer work. The Ohio EPA, they've not announced it yet, as the chief was mentioning earlier, it's one of those 30 days we solicit requests and they're due, and we expect that to come out August 12th. I was on the phone with EPA today. So I anticipate the application being due September 12th. It's the same funding that we just were able to secure for the Scenic Lane Phase 4 sewer project, the Phase 3 sewer project, and both 1 and 2 for the sewer plant. To date, that's 6 and 8, $14 million we've secured from EPA. I'd like to get buy-in from the committee, or see if you'd like us to prepare it's called a nomination, it's not an application. It does require legislation, which I would send to the city, so that could be acted on prior to the 12th. We don't have a specific project outlined just yet. I would like to meet with administration and work on those details. Try to keep it around $4 million, but we'll see how that shakes out, because $4 million is the max grant. Okay. To have an opportunity for the grant, we really need a health risk, so we'll be evaluating those. And I know Sean has some lift station issues that we could probably lump into it to take care of, but you know, for example, the scenic lane project has the failing septics and, some of that stuff. So, I just wanted to make sure that, the committee would support, getting that in front of council.
John?
Yeah, I know.
Yes, absolutely.
But I just have one question. What did you say the grant would be for, or is that something you have to find to?
We have to develop any sewer work, any sanitary
Okay.
sewer work.
You have to
But
apply first and then.
Yeah.
You get
Well,
okay
well,
for it, you get okay for
I'll put together a detailed estimate. So what I'd have to do is work with, both, city manager and service director and the staff to identify, what we've kind of done in the past is identify the worst areas, the biggest need. But then also it's a trick, you know, it's an art, I guess I should say, finding the health risk to put in there. You know, one time we explored, extending sewer to Stoneville. And there's discussion about rekindling that idea or not. So that's where we need to work together, come up with a plan, and we're probably gonna work on it next week.
So is this a total grant, or is this a 50-50 or 75-25?
Well, you can get up to 4 million in grant, and it's 100% grant. For example, the scenic lane is 100% grant being paid for right now. So
Nice.
no guarantees, and quite honestly, we really have to find the health risk to get it in there to be successful again. We've been very, very fortunate to get that money over the last several years, but I'd hate for the city to miss them.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't want to say
No, we don't want to miss that. Yeah.
Free
bring it.
money.
Could this type of grant be used to help put wind and solar in up to the plant?
I don't have an honest answer. I'd have to look into that. I would,
I know there's an alley that's been in question.
and that's in this,
That's in,
Is that the alley? Yeah, okay, good.
I
that's
don't,
where it has to start.
it's so competitive across the state that literally 12 projects get funded, and we've been that lucky over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think they would look at that versus where they're actually, you got sewers flowing into creeks or whatever, and so we're not gonna score as well, but I can check and see.
Okay, you're talking all up, no way killing two birds with one stone,
Yeah.
go back better and bring new deal.
There you go. Okay, I'll get that prepared.
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? We will close the utilities meeting at 6:38, and thank you.